A cup that cannot be filled. A parable of the open heart. There exists a silence so profound that it seems to hold all the sounds of the world within it. It is the silence of a monastery nestled high in the Himalayan mountains, where the wind moves through the valleys like an ancient breath, and where time itself seems to dissolve into something far more gentle and vast than we ordinarily know. In this place, where the mist clings to the peaks like a soft prayer, there lived a Tibetan monk named Tenzin. His eyes held the clarity of mountain streams, and his presence carried the warmth of a fire that had burned steadily for many decades. He had spent his life in contemplation, in meditation, in the patient observation of his own mind and the minds of those who came seeking his wisdom. One morning, as the sun painted the snow-covered mountains in shades of gold and rose, a visitor arrived at the monastery gates. This visitor was an ordinary person, much like you and I, someone whose life had become heavy with the weight of expectations. His name was Dorje, though that is not so important as understanding the nature of his suffering. Dorje had travelled far to find this place. His journey had taken him through valleys and over passes, through villages and forests, all because he carried within him a great burden of worry. His mind was like a cup that had been filled so completely, so relentlessly, with concerns about the future, doubts about the present, and regrets about the past, that there was no room for anything else. No peace could enter, no wisdom could settle, no joy could take root. He arrived at the monastery with shoulders bent, his face marked by the lines of someone who has been clenching his inner being for far too long. The monks welcomed him with gentle bows and offered him tea, and eventually he was brought to sit with Tenzin in a small room where the light filtered through a single window, creating patterns on the wooden floor like a dance of emptiness and form. Dorje sat in silence for a long moment, gathering his words like one gathers scattered seeds. Then he began to speak. "Master," he said, his voice trembling slightly, "I have come because my mind will not rest. I worry about my future. I worry that I am not enough, not successful enough, not wise enough, not good enough. I fill my days with plans and strategies, trying to control what will happen, trying to ensure that I will be safe and happy. But no matter how much I plan, no matter how much I worry and prepare, I still feel empty. I still feel afraid. It is as though I am trying to fill a cup that can never be full. Can you tell me, how do I find peace? How do I stop this endless searching?" Tenzin listened with complete attention. He did not rush to answer. Instead, he simply sat with Dorje's words, letting them settle into the space between them like snow falling gently on still water. His breathing was steady and deep, and his eyes remained soft and kind. After a time, Tenzin rose slowly and walked to a small table where two bowls sat, one made of clay and one made of stone. He filled the clay bowl with water from a ceramic pitcher. The water was clear and cool, and it caught the light from the window. "Come," he said to Dorje, "let me show you something." Dorje approached, uncertain but curious. Tenzin held the clay bowl before him. "This bowl," Tenzin began, his voice like the gentle murmur of a stream, "is like the human mind that refuses to let go. Watch what happens when I continue to pour water into it." He tilted the pitcher, and water flowed into the already full bowl. The water immediately began to overflow, spilling across the sides, running down onto the floor and being lost. More and more water poured in, but none of it could remain. None of it could be held. The bowl was already full, filled with the water that was already there, filled with the expectation that it must hold more, filled with the rigid belief that it knew exactly how much it could contain. "Do you see?" Tenzin asked gently. "The bowl cannot receive anything new because it is already complete. It is already satisfied with what it holds. So the fresh water, the new wisdom, the unexpected grace, all of it simply runs away, wasted." He set down the pitcher and picked up the stone bowl, which was empty. "Now observe," he said, and he began to pour water into the empty bowl. The water filled it slowly, peacefully, each drop finding its place. The bowl received the water with perfect acceptance. There was no resistance, no struggle. The water settled and remained, clear and still, reflecting the light. "This bowl," Tenzin continued, "is like the mind that has learned to let go. It is empty, not empty of life, but empty of the desperate need to hold on, empty of the constant demand to be filled with certainty, empty of the exhausting requirement to know and control everything. Because it is empty, it can receive. Because it is open, it can hold the fresh water of each new moment. Because it is humble, it can contain true wisdom." Dorje watched the water settle in the stone bowl. Something in him shifted. Something in him recognized itself in this simple demonstration. Tenzin set the bowl down and turned to face his guest directly. "Tell me, Dorje," he said, "what is it that you are trying to fill?" Dorje opened his mouth, then closed it again. He had never considered this question. "Your worry," Tenzin continued, "is like a person trying to fill a cup that has no bottom. The more you pour into it, the more plans you make, the more you try to secure your future, the more you grasp for certainty, the faster it drains away. And still you pour, still you worry, still you search, because you believe that if you could just fill it completely, just get it right, just prepare enough, then you would finally be safe. Then you would finally be at peace." The monk walked to the window and looked out at the mountains in the distance. "But here is the great secret that all the sages have discovered," he said softly. "The cup that cannot be filled is not a problem to be solved. It is an invitation to stop trying to fill it. It is an invitation to release your grip, to open your hands, to let the water flow through you, rather than trying to hold it within you." He turned back to Dorji with eyes full of compassion. "When you stop trying to fill the unfillable cup," Tenzin said, "you discover that you were never empty at all. You were never lacking. The peace you were searching for was not something to be added to you. It was something to be revealed by removing all that you had added. Like a mirror that has been covered with dust, it is not the mirror that needs fixing. It is only the dust that needs to be brushed away." Dorji felt tears forming in his eyes. Not tears of sadness, but tears of recognition. "But how?" he asked. "How do I stop trying? The worry comes automatically. The planning comes automatically. The fear comes automatically." "Yes," Tenzin nodded. "This is true. And this is why we practice. This is why we meditate. Not to add something new to the mind, but to gently, patiently, with great kindness toward ourselves, notice when we are trying to fill the unfillable cup, and simply let go." He gestured for Dorji to sit again. "Imagine," Tenzin said, "that you are a river. A river does not worry about where it is going. It does not plan its course in advance. It simply flows around the stones, over the rocks, down the mountains. It adapts to what is. It does not resist. And because it does not resist, it moves with grace and power. It reaches the ocean not because it fought and struggled, but because it surrendered to the nature of flowing." Tenzin settled into his seat with the ease of someone who has made peace with all things. "Your mind," he continued, "can learn to be like this river. It can learn to flow with life rather than against it. It can learn to receive each moment without insisting that the moment be different from what it is. This is not passivity. This is not weakness. This is the greatest strength. The strength to accept reality as it is and to move through it with wisdom and grace." He reached out and gently placed his hand on Dorji's shoulder. "The worries you carry," he said, "are like clouds. They seem so solid, so real, so permanent. But clouds are made of water and air. They have no substance. They move and change and eventually dissolve. If you try to grasp them, they slip through your fingers. If you try to fight them, they multiply. But if you simply watch them with peaceful awareness, they pass. Always they pass." Dorji sat in this teaching, letting it sink deeper and deeper into his being. "What should I do?" he asked finally. "Nothing," Tenzin replied, "and everything. Do what you must do in your life. Work, care for others, live with integrity. But do it without the desperate grasping. Do it without the need to control the outcome. Do it as the river flows, with attention, with presence, with responsiveness to what is actually happening, rather than what you fear might happen." He stood and walked to the window once more. "Each morning," he said, "when you wake, Practice this simple meditation. Take a bowl, any bowl, and fill it with water. Watch the water settle and become still. Watch how it reflects the light. Sit with it for a few moments. Then empty it. Remember that the emptiness is not loss. The emptiness is the very thing that allowed the water to be there. The emptiness is what makes all things possible. The sun had moved higher in the sky. The shadows in the room had shifted. Time had passed, though neither of them had noticed it passing. "You may stay here for a few days," Tenzin said kindly, "and practice with us. But know this, the wisdom you seek is not here in this monastery. It is not in me. It is within you, waiting to be discovered. It has been there all along, hidden beneath the layers of worry and expectation. Your only task is to stop adding to those layers. Your only task is to let them fall away, one by one, like leaves returning to the earth." Dorje bowed deeply, and in that bow was the beginning of his transformation. Over the following days, Dorje sat in meditation with the monks. He watched his thoughts arise and pass away like clouds. He watched his worries surface and dissolve. And gradually, something remarkable happened. Not because he was trying to make it happen, but because he had stopped trying so hard to prevent it. The cup that could not be filled began to reveal its secret. It was never meant to be filled. It was meant to be empty. And in that emptiness was infinite capacity. In that emptiness was peace. In that emptiness was the clear reflection of reality itself, undistorted by fear, uncoloured by expectation, free at last. When Dorje finally left the monastery to return to his ordinary life, he carried with him not answers, but a profound question. And in that question lived the beginning of wisdom. If this story has touched something within you, if it has stirred a recognition of your own journey toward peace, then we invite you to support this channel. Your support helps us continue to share these ancient teachings, these timeless parables, with others who are searching for the light. Thank you for being here. May you find the peace that comes not from filling your cup, but from learning, finally, to let it be empty.